Attack on Titan was always one of my favorite shows. In a world where anime contains characters with superhuman strength and ungodly stamina, I found an ocean of relation to the Attack on Titan series. Humans were feeble. The consequences of a sprained ankle were real, not just a bruise on the skin. I was a proud owner of the first game in the series when I owned my Xbox One, and I loved the feeling of zooming across the battlefield, watching the scenery pass me by just like in the anime. But something felt off, and that was the difficulty the AI in the first game posed. I found it to be trite and jaded, the way these menacing titans seemed utterly disinterested in my human model of a character. And thankfully, much of this was rectified in the second game, Attack on Titan 2. And I began wondering to myself, as I found a mild challenge in casual playthroughs, what would happen if we cut off the primary means of evasion and damage from the game? I decided to find out for myself just how challenging the game would be without any gas bursts, including those used to attack, home in from long range on a Titan, and to attack in any form by expending more gas than necessary to move around. Also meaning our evasions were pretty much limited. And honestly, when I started this challenge, I didn't expect it to be so grueling. I expected the Titan AI, though well improved, to still be simple enough to handle, but what I found was that the AI was not as simple as I gave them credit for. In fact, the complexities of the rage system introduced in Attack on Titan 2 gave me a run for my money. See, in Attack on Titan 2, to improve the AI's difficulty, a new system was introduced called the Rage Meter. And this meter filled up when you stayed around a Titan for too long or locked onto it. When the meter filled up completely, the Titan would enter Rage Mode. And in Rage Mode, the camera angle locks onto the Titan and you cannot move it. Additionally, you are forcefully locked onto the Titan as well. Its grabs and attacks would also get stronger, and their execution speed drastically increases, and in some cases become immediate. And while you might think you can just evade its grabs and attacks, you would be wrong. But I don't want to spoil anything for you. Instead, let's go over the challenge rules. Rule number 1, no using a gas burst. If at any time we use a gas burst, it means an immediate restart of the level up to the last checkpoint. If no checkpoints exist, the entire level must be restarted. Rule number 2, attacking in any way that expends gas for special techniques is forbidden. Rule number 3, no gas saver skills allowed. These are skills that can be equipped by your character as you progress through the game to reduce the amount of gas consumed for any reason. Rule number 4, we are only allowed to resupply by bases established by distress signals, level progression, or bases already established at the start of the level, after the second encounter with the female Titan. To make this challenge even harder, we're going to be using the most fragile sword we can find, forcing us to use more gas to traverse and resupply. Now, some of you might be thinking, why only after the second encounter with the female Titan? To answer that question, I must reiterate that this run would not be possible to even attempt using the most fragile weapon available to me if I did not have the ability to restock my gas and blades in the early game due to time limit constraints. At least I was struggling to do so. See, in the early game, you're tasked with protecting multiple people and taking out abnormals rather frequently, and if I wanted to, I could recruit a ton of scouts to join me in executing Titans and not have to get my hands dirty at all, thus saving my blades and gas, but that would defeat the purpose of the challenge run. Additionally, through the first 2/3 of the game, because you are constantly saving and protecting people, you are being forcefully restocked on supplies all the time. I mean, I even tried to waste all my gas and swords at one point and was restocked to full after saving one ally. So I decided to give up on trying to avoid this until it could actually be avoided, and that just so happens to be after the second encounter with the female Titan. So, we begin our challenge by selecting New Game, Story Mode, and then we ride our way through the loading screen to our character's opening cutscene, where we begin our first reenactment of one of the most horrifyingly difficult boss fights I have ever had the displeasure of taking part in 14 years. Luckily, we don't have to actually fight this boss until later on, but as I was editing the takes for this video and watched the opening cutscene again, I was reminded of just how difficult this challenge turned out to be. After sitting through a 5-minute cutscene, the introduction is over, and the tutorial begins. Here we name our character Eric, so you can feel my pain as you see my numerous deaths throughout the run. We are then brought through the first tutorial of the game where we learn basic controls and building bases. This is very important because it is how we restock our blades and gas. I couldn't find the section of the tutorial showing a gas burst, so I used a clip from the early game. As you can see, gas bursts allow us to expend a small amount of gas to quickly move in any direction. This also allows us to travel further distances and even move using our omnidirectional gear where no hook shots are present, such as in the open plains, over water, or destroyed areas in the city. This is especially useful for navigating tight spaces or escaping a Titan's attack range. But as already said, in this run we won't be using gas bursts. So, following the tutorial, we head off on our first real mission. It is here we are introduced to horses. Horses are the primary means of traveling on land in areas where there are no locations to hookshot onto. However, to make this challenge harder, we're not going to be using our horses at all once we hop off of them for the first time. This means we are only allowed to ride our horses once, and that is at the start of the mission. Once we get off, we are then only allowed to use our omnidirectional gear to cross terrain. The first mission doesn't give us too much trouble, but it does make it hard for us to lock onto Titans for combat since the terrain is empty at different sections of the city. Thankfully, we are able to lock onto Titans themselves to take them out. Now you'll notice my character has what looks like meat cleavers equipped. Those are the sharpest but most fragile weapons available to us at this time, and the weapon tree we will be using throughout the entire run. They deal the most amount of damage, but even at later stages of the run break very easily and are worn down fast. After taking out only 3 Titans, our blade's durability reaches the 75% mark. Thankfully, though the Titans are weak at the early stages of the game, and their numbers are few, meaning we won't have to worry about our blades breaking. Yet. The first mission entails setting up supply bases though, so we can't really run out of supplies in this level. Some distress signals are confirmed and we make our way to help our fellow scouts and set up the remaining bases. Or at least we try to, while the game glitches out. Once we manage to do so, we are greeted by our first large abnormal Titan. These Titans need to be attacked in their weak spots indicated by the glowing green marker on their body part first before they can take any considerable damage. But as I'm going about fighting it and managed to take out one of the abnormals, I found I could not get to the second abnormal fast enough and got my first game over. This never happened to me before since I was always able to take out the Titans with speed and traverse the battlefield with gas bursts, but turns out protecting supply bases is ultimately what determines whether you win or lose this fight. Determined not to restart the entire level, I try again and the same thing happens. I race to the large abnormals to take them out quickly with the help of my team, and I get a message that the Titans are close to destroying the major supply base. This time though, I'm expecting it, so I prepare to immediately change directions and head to the major supply base. That was when I realized I had no idea where it was. I get my second game over on the first level. Oh boy, had I only known how hard time challenges were going to really be in this run. I decide to start over from the last checkpoint, only this time I fight the Titans at the center of the map where I spawn first, seeing if that would help stop the major base from being destroyed. But I get the same message before I even get to the abnormals this time. Titans are closing in on the major supply base. My frustration begins to grow as I still have no idea where the major supply base is. So I look at the map for blinking red icons thinking they are objective markers where Titans are spotted and quickly change directions only to find out that the icons were the large abnormals I was fighting originally. I quickly became annoyed and began attacking nearby Titans, hoping to learn by process of elimination which ones were dangerous to the mission while I waited to see if I would get another game over. After taking out all the Titans in the area, I could only see 2 left. The 2 large abnormals. The health bar on the major supply base stopped going down, and I found hope and peace in my endeavors to take out the large abnormals. With some help from my team, a big explosion, and a well-timed strike to the nape, the first mission was complete, and I had already started to panic. 2 losses, and it was only the first level. Now before I go any further, I did manage to find another tutorial skit in my recordings that show a technique we should go over, as we will be making use of it frequently throughout this run. If you air jump right before a Titan grabs you, then you automatically dodge the attack and maneuver behind the Titan's neck. If you press triangle during this time, you will expend a small amount of gas to deal a large amount of damage to the Titan, oftentimes instantly killing it. Due to the rules of this challenge, we are not allowed to use the counterattack. We are, however, allowed to make use of this evasion technique as it costs no gas to execute. Lastly, the final techniques we are not allowed to use is the lock-on technique. This technique lets you lock onto a Titan from far away and expend gas at a rapid rate to dash to the Titan and perform a sneak attack that deals an extraordinary amount of damage. This technique can be used against bosses as well as minor Titans, but will rapidly raise their rage meter as well. However, due to the rules of this challenge run, this ability will also not be used at all throughout the entirety of the run. As for the next mission, there isn't really any trouble. We slash some Titans, head to the large abnormal. Now we did end up breaking our blades and ran out of reserves, but thanks to our team actions, we managed to take out the large abnormal without any real trouble. And with that, the second mission's complete. Now, I'm not going to be covering the details of every squad mission or showing footage of them if there isn't any real reason to. As I said earlier in the video, the early section of the game is pretty easy since you're constantly having supplies refilled and you're almost always in a squad with someone assisting you. Now, there were some mishaps along the way. When the third mission begins, I made the mistake of accidentally using a gas burst. But unless you've already reached a checkpoint, starting over isn't so simple. You have to either let a Titan execute you or else suffer through a loading screen that takes you back to the town, then sit through another loading scene to start the mission again, wait for the horses to ride through the loading screen. Either one is tedious, and sadly this is the first of many times throughout this run I had made this simple mistake. I regretted every one, and I have to say that later in the game, I don't use gas burst at all anymore. As a matter of fact, it is integrated into my thinking that they are taboo because of the torture I put myself through from having to sit through countless loading screens. But enough about that. We make it through the third mission and the fourth with Aaron's help as he transforms into a Titan for the first time. Thankfully, we don't have to do much else but let him fight most of the Titans for us and protect him from others. But since their attention's mostly focused on Aaron, we have little to no trouble confronting them. Or that's what I'd like to say. Alas, I did it again. With another tally to our death count and my frustration reaching the ceiling, I decide not to look at another dead logo screen in big letters and instead return to the town to restart the mission. The waiting time makes me feel worse than if I had just taken the L. I learned very quickly the horrors of loading times in between missions in this game. Just to give you an idea of what I sat through on repeat, here's a skit of the loading screen while I talk to you. Enjoy. And for those of you wondering, I am playing on the regular PS4, not the PS4 Pro or PS5, so my loading times will be slower than other versions of the console. And while I'm grateful to own any version of the PS4 and the game library, I did not have the patience necessary to tolerate the numerous deaths I did manage to achieve. Still, I can't say I regret anything either, since it did make me more disciplined, which is good. If you call staring at your screen for 30 seconds intently disciplined, or forcing yourself to play through a challenge run with no blades, dealing literally 8 damage to a Titan on repeat. Good for you. Thankfully, we did have a full squad, so whenever we attacked the Titan at all, our teammates also attacked with us, making this fight at least bearable. Large abnormals defeated, we secure for ourselves another victory for humanity. After the battle, I upgrade my equipment. Obtaining our new shiny golden butcher blades, we set out to kill some Titans, protect Aaron from getting eaten, and the mission ends with the large abnormal being taken out. There's nothing really to show for the next mission. I mean, we have no trouble escorting Aaron to the wall, carrying the boulder. I mean, there was a few close calls, getting grabbed, but the mission's as simple as taking out Titans that got close to him. But this is where things start to get interesting. Going forwards, we're going to be encountering a few missions like this one, the open plains. But before we go on to the next mission, we first run around and talk to some people. See, in the Attack on Titan games, you can level up your bonds with people, which give you new skills to equip to your character to use in combat. These skills have a variety of effects, ranging from boosting your HP to granting your characters a new attack to use against Titans. And honestly, without these skills, I don't think this run would even be possible to attempt, truthfully. Once we get into the late game, Titans have more HP and resources become scarcer, harder to obtain, plus the rules for this challenge limit how many times we can restock supplies, and with the finite endurances of our blade, we would end up running out of blades and gas before we managed to take out the enemy Titans. coupled with the harsh reality that boss titans can literally one-shot you no matter how high your health is, only adds to the danger. Having said that, we will be gathering as many skills as possible throughout this run to ensure that we are equipped with the skills necessary to take down enemies in the most efficient manner possible. Now, getting back on track to the mission, this is the first mission where we will be participating in what takes place in the open plains. These missions always start on horseback, and the game even tells you that horseback is the most efficient way to traverse the terrain. We, however, will not be using our horses except for the previously stated roles. Only upon beginning the mission are we allowed to travel on horseback. The rest of the mission must be done on foot and without gas bursts. The problem with this role is that in the plains there are almost no locations to hook shot onto, meaning we are left without any way to move quickly except by finding titans and hooking onto their bodies. We're fortunate enough, however, to find some houses and sections of the map where there is suitable terrain for us to gain a bit of speed and fight titans in. But most of the level will be spent trying to get from one location to the next. Realizing how tedious this was going to be, I did try to glitch the game and see if it was possible to get on the horse without touching the ground, thinking maybe I could change the rules for the challenge run to be cannot get on a horse back after touching the ground. Hoping I could land on top of the horse, but I found no such mechanic existed within the game. I did manage to come very close and was able to link the landing animation with the climb animation though, and was able to get on the horse while bypassing the climbing animation altogether. I was proud of myself when I discovered this glitch, but in the end, I technically did break the rules for my own challenge, but I was surrounded by houses and could have easily gotten there twice as fast simply by hookshotting to the nearby houses, so it's not like it would have changed the outcome. This is the only time, however, I did get on a horse twice. It was only done to reward myself for discovering a feat in the game. By staying close to the edge of the map where we spawn, we're surrounded by several trees which allow us to use our omnidirectional gear to travel quickly through the early stage of the level. And following, for some odd reason, this particular level of the plains is littered with trees to grow next to and out of stone. I will tell you now, this will not be the case going forward. I presume game developers just didn't want to be too harsh on gamers the first time they were exposed to a change in gameplay mechanics. But honestly, they need to learn a thing or two from Dark Souls. An unexpected challenge is good. Gives the gamer something to work towards. But if you're watching the game footage below, you'll see that in the plains, there are clear disadvantages to fighting titans. The most obvious being their rage meter fills up quickly, and circling around them can be quite difficult. In my first attempt, without gas burst, I was swiped away twice and immediately grabbed following. The same thing happened with the second titan, and I almost got a game over. Thankfully, our troubles don't last too much longer, and we managed to get through the rest of the level without too many issues. Or that's what I'd like to say, except I made the unfortunate mistake of using a gas burst to quickly recover from a failed execution attempt on an enraged titan. My annoyance level spiked as I restarted the entire mission. The second time though, I know what to expect and make quick work of all the titans, slay the large abnormal and end the mission. This was the easiest level of the plains and I still had this much trouble. I started fearing for what was ahead when I started to remember how grueling the boss fights could be with gas bursts, so my fears were soon realized after our death count would spike. The next battle is pretty straightforward, but I'll summarize my experience for you. Mind-numbing stress. Imagine this. You start a level with super strong weapons thinking defeating all the enemies will be a piece of cake, only to find that your weapons broke halfway through the entire fight and you had another 5 minutes to go fighting with a broken piece of steel against literal giants. That was my experience. I used all of my resources and even almost ran out of gas. I came very close to restarting the entire mission due to rethinking which enemies I'd rather have no blades against, certainly not the large abnormals, so while avoiding him and letting my allies weaken him for me sounded appealing, I couldn't stomach the thought of being literally useless. To me, that sounded like I had already failed the challenge run. So I charged him again and again, and again, until finally, with no gas or blades left, we managed to destroy both the Titan's arms and legs and capture it instead of killing it. This ends the long and tedious mission. And if I could have just used gas burst with having damaged blades wouldn't really be a big deal because I'd still be able to deal twice as much damage and I wouldn't end up spending as much gas because he would have been executed quicker anyway. I mean, I'd be spending less time weakening him. Anyhow, my mid-challenge ran over. We finished the mission. And I'd like to find more interesting things to talk about rather than just detailing mission by mission, but I mean, it's an Attack on Titan video game. There's not much to it. I'd like to say some super awesome glitch happened that clipped me out of bounds and I was able to find some secret boss Titan with 100,000 HP, but that's just not the case. This mission primarily details slaying Titans with Eren, following missions capturing Titan to progress the storyline. So we take our two abnormals back with us under Hanja's care before, spoiler alert, in 3, 2, 1, they get taken out by someone from within the walls. It is here that our next expedition in the open plains teaches us the hardship of not having trees to hookshot onto, and it is also the place where we learn about a new mechanic in the game that makes this challenge run doable. Without it, I don't think this run would even be possible, honestly. See, as I mentioned earlier, there are some timed missions that require us to reach a certain destination within the time frame and, coming very soon, protecting or escorting scouts even across various terrains. Because of the limitations placed on us in this challenge, if we're not allowed back on our horses and we can't hookshot onto anything, then we would automatically lose these time challenges. That is, we would without one unique feature of the game, but more on that shortly. Before we go on to the next mission, we stop by to upgrade our equipment. Now, I didn't show this beforehand, but I'd been upgrading all of my equipment across the board up to this point. Anytime I got materials to upgrade the blades or anything else, I would. But staying true to the challenge, I never upgrade any other equipment without first upgrading the blades. There was a time or two throughout the run where I actually forgot to upgrade equipment side by side, so you may see me upgrading equipment twice, but to ensure we're making minimal use of the horse throughout this challenge, I opted not to level it up at all. Moving on, I finished preparing by leveling up my bonds and acquiring some new skills. First Petra, who gives us the sudden death skill, and then Ururu, who gives us the Hobbery skill. Sudden death increases our damage slightly when we're low on health, and Hobbery is literally useless because it only works with sneak attacks, which are off limits in this challenge anyway. It's important to note that we will not be maxing out bonds with any one character by any means except natural story progression. This means no giving gifts to raise our bond ranks with them. The skills we obtain only by natural progression through this game. By this time, I realized I had a ton of skills unequipped and proceed to equip them almost immediately. All of them. Or maybe they were all equipped already. I don't really remember at this point. I just remember looking over my skills at one point and realized none of them were equipped. And what you're seeing here is a brief cutscene of the game. Before we proceed, I just want to make known that the encounters with the female Titan will come back to back, and our previously stated rules will come into effect within the next couple of minutes. As a reminder, we will no longer be resupplying by any means except mission completion and objectives. I also wanted to point out that moving forwards, we have one additional rule I forgot to mention. We must save all characters with a distress signal no matter what, or else the challenge run will be over. Since resupplying can only be done by rescuing people, I decided it would add more tension if the stakes were slightly higher, so I threw another role into the mix. I do want to mention that previously I've already fulfilled this requirement. Even without gas bursts, I was able to rescue every scout that sent out a distress signal, though a couple of them were near misses. It was possible. We start the next mission on horseback, and this particular mission is incredibly straightforward, so I won't be showing much of the footage for it. Slay some Titans, build a couple bases, escort a team of scouts to an objective area. Per our previously added rules, we get a couple of distress signals that we race towards, and thanks to our new blades, we can one-hit KO most Titans if we aim for a critical strike. For some smaller Titans, we don't even need critical strikes, which saves time, blades, and gas. Cut off all the limbs, capture the large abnormal. Mission complete. With that, our first encounter with the female Titan can begin, and the nightmare of this challenge truly starts to come to light. Now, I've spent a lot of time building up to these upcoming missions, and it's time to address some of the biggest problems we're going to face. First, the lack of hookshot locations. I recently told you there was a feature in the game that allows this run to be possible. Before I get into it, though, I want to reiterate that without it, I don't see any way of actually completing this game without failing to save some scouts. Secondly, the lack of resources and the inability to travel to obtain new ones. Something I did not mention earlier is that while we can restock by mission and story progression, there are certain sections where we actually have to travel to restock, and in the open plains like this, there is no way to do that in a timely manner. That will also allow us to save every scout or complete the mission in time. Third, surviving Titan attacks. Since we will not have as many squad members joining the team, it means that a lot of fights will be fought either with D-rank recruits which have no team actions, or by ourselves. We start each level with 5 recovery potions that restore our health if we enter a critical state by being grabbed or by a titan that deals too much damage to us. Once these potions are gone, if a titan grabs us or we take any damage, we're almost always guaranteed a game over. So having covered these primary concerns, we make our way on foot across the open plains. Going into this run, I didn't actually learn of this exploit until I became desperate and started seriously giving up on this run. With no way to traverse the terrain quickly, I began seeing scouts get eaten one by one. This does not avoid the challenge unless the scouts being eaten were from a distress signal. And with each moot scout that gets eaten, more focus from Titans was focused on me, and consequently, I found myself struggling to survive Titan conflict. With the only way to traverse the terrain safely and quickly to be locking onto Titans, later I actually opted to leave Titans alive so I could travel further distances when it actually mattered. And as you're seeing here, this is a prime example of what I referenced in the earlier mission when we were first introduced to the plains. But this time, it is worse. When the Titan's rage meter fills up, camera locks onto the Titan, and since there's literally nowhere to lock onto except the Titan itself, avoiding its attacks is almost impossible without gas bursts. Not to mention, this time we have no allies to assist us with safely taking out Titans. Our only option is to use a flare gun to blind the Titans, which ends the rage mode instantly, or wait for it to end normally. The one thing that we can utilize 100% of the time though is hookshotting off the Titan immediately after it's eliminated, as its body remains intact for a brief duration after being defeated. This allows us to travel a short duration and sometimes gives us just enough speed to find something else to hookshot onto to keep us moving. We travel on foot some distance to reach our first mission objective, and fortunately it is in a village. Again though, with little room to evade, we get caught by a Titan. With that, our potion inventory drops to 3, my angst spikes as I get my first SOS signal. And if a character with an SOS signal dies, as previously stated, it does end the run. But feeling incapable of saving them made me feel like I failed the mission anyhow. To my joy, I had not once failed to rescue a scout from an SOS signal though. So while it isn't necessary to complete the game, I did make it a priority not to let an SOS signal go unchecked. The fight took longer than I wanted it to, but thankfully, the rest after this go pretty smoothly. I'm the target of Titan Rage, get an SOS signal, flare, save the recruit, take out the rest of the Titans, and complete the first mission objective. We resupply since we have not yet met the female Titan for the second time, travel on foot to some nearby rocks that allow us to hookshot, travel, then make our way on foot to the nearest distress signal, take out the Titans, make our way to the next distress signal using the rocks to give ourselves a speed boost, and then we make our way on foot until we save the second scout. But the amount of time we spend on foot brings the timer to the halfway mark. At this point, I start to sweat and use the Titan to hookshot towards the objective instead of taking it out. Finally get there and save Gilgar, move towards the next mission objective using Titans as leverage, and start to hate my life from the sheer tedious nature of this challenge run. This task started becoming mind-numbing and stale, and I started to realize that there isn't a lot of texture in this game. Normally, I just spend so much of my time zooming across the battlefield, I don't take the time to look at how bland the scenery actually is, and how often the same objects are copied and pasted over every map. But anyhow, the footage shown below is exactly what I said it would be. One of our biggest problems. With no way to get out of close range from a Titan, we are at their repeated mercy when fighting more than one at a time, and unfortunately, with no time to heal after being put in critical condition, we get an immediate game over. I'm more careful the second time though and make quick work of the Titans in the area. Distress signals come up and I start to panic as I realize there is no way I can make it to both of them in time. I decide to try to save Petra first, and something amazing happens I did not even know was possible. I discover an exploit in the game's programming. As I begin to approach the edge of the map, I realize something. The developers had to put something solid there to keep players from criticizing the game for not having effort put in, and to keep players from clipping out of bounds. And while this doesn't work all the time at every single location, I have found it works a majority of the time, and up to slightly above the middle section of the wall. But if you stick to the edge of the map, you can use a single hook shot, only one, and your character will gain height to travel upwards. This happens so that the game can correct its X and Y axis rotation to allow 2 hook shots to be deployed at once. Once we gain enough height, this is exactly what happens. One hook shot attaches to the open planes and the other to the edge of the map. Due to the way the game is designed, however, when you use your hook shot at any location, the character model is always propelled forwards based on a numerical value impacted by the omnidirectional gear you have equipped. This changes everything, since by using one hook shot on the wall, we can gain enough height to continually allow ourselves to fall back down to the ground and hook shot again. If we time our hook shots correctly, we can gain normal traveling speed by hooking onto the ground beneath us while keeping the X-axis proportional to our character model. This allows the game to treat the cliff as a house or any other structure that keeps our character model centered during hookshotting animations. Now there's one location on the edge of the map where a fence blocks our path and we're unable to lock onto anything, most of the time. See, there is a bug in the game where if you gain just the right amount of height, the game will treat the edge of the map, or in this case the fence, as an attachable object, and you will hookshot onto the ground to propel your character model an equivalent Y-axis forwards. This will cause your character model to stay relatively close to the ground, but will allow you to travel consistently forwards as long as the Y-axis is parallel to the fence at the edge of the map, or if you are in certain boundary points, such as ones that allow your character to travel outside of the map and recenter him, in which case you will actually hookshot onto an invisible wall. I haven't quite mastered this trick yet, though I would have liked to spend more time practicing it, but I was able to pull it off multiple times in this run. Now, enjoy watching the game footage while this moment of silence molds with the explanation I just gave. I've been building up enough to this point, so I'll fast travel for you from here. We walk across the plains to the center where we trigger a cutscene and meet the female Titan. Here is a short cutscene to demonstrate what my life felt like facing it. Now, since it is in the center of the map, I have to walk there. There are some Titans on the way, but hardly worth mentioning. So the battle starts with the female Titan entering rage mode. I fly around a bit before this happens. The game glitches because the female Titan stands on top of my fallen body, which keeps me from getting back up while I'm in critical condition. I manage to get off a quick flare shot, get out of the way, use a potion at the exact moment I get hit again, putting me right back in critical condition, and then... So I start over from the checkpoint and, oh, I have to walk all the way back. And rage mode, followed by a kick while I'm downed and a literal one-shot combo in midair, instantly killing my character. Yay. So I have to walk back again, get punched into critical state, knocked back by rage mode, and punched again on repeat. Eventually, I rebound with a well-timed air jump, reduce its stamina to 0, heal up, take out both its legs, and end the first encounter. This is also the easiest encounter, by the way. By this point, I'm sweating and am already scared to go on. The second and third encounter with the female Titan were very difficult, and dying on repeat felt more tedious than it did challenging. Before we go on, I go back to the past to unlock a couple extra skills, none of which we use right now, but it'll be important to unlock the skills for later on so we can further our bonds with these characters. The next mission begins on horseback, and without boring you too much, we basically just have to traverse the terrain, rescue soldiers, and meet up with Levi Squad. So we make our way to the objective point by hugging the walls, take out some Titans, and help Mikasa. We complete our objectives and are told to meet with the Levi Squad. Hugging the wall, we travel to the meetup point, escort Eren to the village, and... we capture the female Titan! Or, we did. Titans start pouring in, and we're told to keep them from entering the forest. The mission's really quite simple. We just have to take out roaming Titans. At first, that is. Things get hectic when we have to rush out of the forest to help allies. I accidentally gas burst to escape the grasp of a Titan. Yeah, not my proudest moment, but per our rules for this challenge, no allies can be ignored. All distress calls must be answered, so I had to go out of my way to help them, away from the forest. Why would this become hectic, you might ask? Well, remember when I said this run wouldn't be possible without some of the exploits we learned? This is where that comes into play. After we finish making our way to the last distress call, Ymir sets up a base, and as soon as we eliminate the remaining titans in the forest, we hear the female titans roar. Wouldn't you know, this mission involves a time limit. We have to race to the female titan's position and defeat all the titans within 5 minutes of traveling. But first, before we can actually fight the female titan, we have to spend more gas executing the new titans that are rushing towards the forest again. Upon clearing the last titan out, though, the time limit starts, and with it, another wave of titans. We restock our supplies one last time before the second encounter with the female titan, and after making our way back to the forest, face the last wave of titans. With a close call, we make it to all the distress signals on time, and finish the mission, though. I'm just surprised it took so much concentration not to fail this level. Now, for the dreaded mission of this challenge run. Watching this all a second time hurt my soul. The fight starts with me dancing around the Titan before a frontal assault, completely missing the distress call. The scouts set up a supply base, which we will not be using. We're called to eliminate the remaining Titans to escort Eren, and then my future deaths are predicted. The second fight begins again. I didn't want to let Eren fight her in this first section, but I was having some technical difficulties. So I just keep on waiting for my support character's cooldown to reset so I could help Eren fight. That, and by this time my supplies were incredibly low. Ridiculously low, due to all the failed attempts and forced evasive maneuvers I had to do in order to avoid taking damage. With only one spare blade and gas canister left, we take out both legs. Using the last of our current gas and blades, we take out a single stranded Titan with Eren's help, proceed to the next portion of this fight. And honestly, going into this, I forgot that there were 3 sections to this fight with the female Titan. Yeah, 3. And I'm out of blades by the beginning of part 2. We move to a distress signal to save a scout who sets up a supply base, which we have no choice but to use since we are out of gas and blades. So we restock our supplies, eliminating the massive titans in the area, and are greeted with the wonderful time limit to find and defeat the female titan. Oh, and 2 additional distress signals. And we're out of HP potions. While I'm securing distress signals, I get this urgent message. Time is running out. The time limit drops to under 3 minutes, and the female titan stops by to say hello while I'm fighting 2 other titans. Sounds simple, right? 3 minutes to take out the female titan with all I've got? You'd think so. Except that it took over 2 minutes to end one of the 2 distress signals, including time spent traveling. I've yet to secure the second, and by the time I finish making way to the second signal, I'm aware I won't defeat the titan in time. Per the rules of this challenge, since I did not secure all distress signals, this means the mission was a failed attempt. Because I was determined not to start the entire mission over again, I restarted from the checkpoint again, with only 3 minutes and 45 seconds remaining, surrounded by titans at the first distress call. Oh, that was the checkpoint. Huh. Well, attempt number 2 goes better, and I made full use of Mikasat quickly dispatch of the second set of titans, saving Levi for the female titan. You'd think it would be that easy, huh? Except by the time I get to her, another minute passes and she instantly puts me in critical state, with no HP potions remaining. To avoid a follow-up combo, I dash in to attack, and then, yeah, attempt number 3. Restarting with a low timer keeps setting me back, but I refuse to try any other way. But there's a new problem. I can't seem to get to the female titan fast enough to beat her. I was about to restart the mission when I got desperate, and that is when I learned yet another exploit within the game's coding. See, as I explained before, the game When You Hookshot is designed to boost your character towards a medium of both the X and Y axis to keep your character proportional to the hooks that are latched onto things and propel your character forwards at the same time. However, this process is interrupted when you jump mid-air during a hookshot propulsion. In other words, it becomes possible to reset the trajectory of the hookshots immediately after deploying them to, if the terrain allows for it, gain additional propulsion based on the numerical value of the omnidirectional gear we have equipped. In short, this allows us to gain speed when our hookshots propel our character model forwards so that we can reset our hookshots while gaining additional speed from each propulsion, maximizing our character's speed with the currently equipped omnidirectional gear without using gas bursts. This does expend more gas, but gives us the much needed speed boost to get to the female Titan faster and without running into too many obstacles or being slowed down by hookshotting onto branches, rocks, and trees. However, all of that isn't enough to prevent us from being defeated yet again by the female Titan. Despite our best efforts, even with Levi's help and getting her health as low as 3%, we lose to a single kick due to being low on supplies and unable to restock them after taking damage the first time. I can say though, we now have a recipe for success going forwards. Attempt number 4. We make our way speedily back to the female Titan without delay, this time making full use of our new gimmick to maintain maximum speed with short bursts off of each hookshot. Since this does not violate the rules of the challenge and is not considered a gas burst, this exploit is completely legal. Additionally, this trick can be used at all times with the correct terrain going forwards, and we will be making full use of this exploit as often as we can since it also reduces the time necessary for this run. A few more swivels around the corner and we arrive at the female Titan. In less than 50 seconds, we made our way halfway across the map without gas bursts. Pretty impressive if I do say so myself. A single rage meter later and we reduce her stamina to 0. Striking with Levi and a follow up with Mikasa, and our starting scout we once again reduce the female Titan's HP to 3%. Some of my help, of course. And at long, painstakingly last, the second fight against the female Titan is over. Alas, the worst has yet to come. It is the final fight against the female Titan that caused me to question the necessity of this video and gave me pause for thought as to whether or not I should delete my game footage altogether. And yes, that fight is next. I'll skip the theatrics and show you the footage I've ranted about for the entire video. So the first part of the mission is really simple. Deplete the Titan's HP before she escapes. Easy, right? Except that we move at nearly the exact same speed as her without gas burst. And after every hit, we get sent back behind her position again. There were even a few times building debris caused me to lose my hook shot and I would lose too much time or would miss an attack and fail the mission as a result. That alone became a frustrating ordeal. Not only that, but we are expending a lot of gas and wearing down our blades so fast, we have to stop every 80 seconds to replace both of them. The good news, however, is that we are able to use our newest exploit to make quick evasions around the corners by sticking to the ground as we pursue the Titan. So even without gas burst, it becomes possible to keep up with the female Titan. My next issue, though, came whenever she began jumping so much I couldn't stay locked onto her well enough to hit her. It got so hectic I actually ran out of time and lost to her. However, despite that, the mission doesn't end. If you fail to stop the female Titan, you are instead greeted with a cutscene showing the wonderful final battle with the female Titan at max power. That's right, if you fail to stop the female Titan, she isn't weakened when you fight her the final time. She gets stronger. The fight is so chaotic without gas burst. I try to get in for a clean hit, but Aaron's fists just keep knocking me back. I can't get in close enough to do anything. And literally one hit from the female Titan, yeah, I'm not too fond of that one hit, one kill stuff. I try again, but even after exhausting all my attacks on the first rush, I can't get out in time, and died again. So I try for a third time, get charged at so many times, I run out of potions, and then You guessed it, I get mowed down again and suffer another defeat. It starts to become painful to watch as I relive the trauma a second time. I became so scared in this fight, I actually used a hit and run tactic this time, which panned out pretty well actually. I was so scared of dying to a single combo again, I used all my supports at once and prayed for the best outcome. It did almost nothing, and I was left with low supplies and an aggroed female titan that would focus on me if I was too close. I just hated the idea of letting Eren win this fight for me, since that's not really beating the game, you know? I got daring and decided to put my new titan slaying skills to the test. By instinct, I began air dodging the female titan, and it seemed like hope had shined upon me yet. That's what you thought I would say, right? That's funny. Yeah, no, I died. No HP potions means no walking fast on ground or jumping. Attempt number 5. I'm frustrated and tired of running around. I dive right in, get knocked back, and within a minute am drop kicked and killed. Another 2-hit combo to the grave. Attempt number 6. It's hit and run for about 2 minutes as I wait for Eren to help, finally realizing my human limits and give myself time to recover HP between attacks without potions. It's not long before I realize this isn't really winning and go back on the offensive. That lasts about 30 seconds before I die for the 6th time by a rage attack, followed by a mad football rush. You know, I'm starting to attribute this game to Dark Souls. Attempt number 7. I'm learning how to keep the female titan's stamina at 0 for 2 to 3 combos in a row. Things are looking up for me. Okay. Attempt number 8. I call it impossible without gas bursts and rest my peace. I let Eren do most of the fighting and stop by for pop shots when I can. Do as much damage as possible when she's down, follow up with Jean for a second combo rush, and when the Titan's stamina is about to recover, I hightail it out of combat and stay where it's safe. I mean, I tried other methods, I stayed in the fight when I could and at least attempted to be part of the winning factor, but in the end it was either recover my health on the rooftops or die to another inevitable combo from the female titan. Without gas burst, it is literally impossible to dodge her attacks, at least with the gear we have. And even if we had the fastest omnidirectional gear equipped for real speed, that gear also has the worst gas capacity, meaning we would still be out of the fight once we ran out of gas. No matter how I looked at the situation, it became clear. By my standards, the run ended here. Is it possible to beat Attack on Titan 2 without using gas bursts? My answer? No, it isn't. Attack on Titan 2 is a game that requires you to make full use of its omnidirectional gear mechanic, and without that, it truly has proved to be a game that is impossible to win. Now, if you made the conscious choice to dodge the female titan from a safe distance all game and wait for your chance to attack her when her stamina is low, thanks to Eren being part of the fight, then yes, you could beat her all the same. But from where I stand, that isn't winning. That's letting an NPC win the fight for you. Honestly, if Eren wasn't there, I'd have lost the fight many times over from the start. With Gas Burst, I have no doubt in my mind it would have been possible to beat the female titan without Eren's help. But given the rules for this challenge, that just isn't a reality we can confront. The challenge run ends here. The female titan in her final fight is truly unbeatable. Since I was unable to defeat the female titan in the first part of the final fight, any hope of surviving is lost without gas bursts. Well, hey, for what it's worth, I did enjoy the challenge run and learning new ways to play the game. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. This run literally took me over 25 hours to edit and script write. I'm not even kidding you. Since most of the game is repetitive, I had to try really hard to edit smooth transitions into the game, and then I had to write my script accordingly. It took a lot of hard work, and your support would be appreciated. I'm going to be doing more challenge run videos soon, though not of Attack on Titan games. I just have to get around to them. If you're new to the channel, though, consider subscribing as I also make videos with Travis. You can check out our co-op challenge run of Resident Evil 6, Handguns Only, and Leon's campaign in the link below, or by clicking on the video thumbnail to the right of the screen here. I hope to see you next time. Until then, keep on gaming, my friends. Eric out.